She's pretty church. She's been to a lot of church in her life. You've heard that story before, probably around Christmas. You ever wonder what the heck is that story doing around Christmas? I mean, it's a little bit of a waiting thing. She gave a little bit of the answer there, but it doesn't feel like a Christmas story. We never read it except for Advent. Jesus isn't there. John's parents don't show up pretty much anywhere else in the Bible. What does it have to do with the attentive expectancy of God showing up full in the world? And most of us, some of you spent a time with your family this weekend. Some of you spent more time with your family this weekend than you've spent in a long time, right? And so, you were waiting to not spend time with your family when that was over. Some of you love your family, but a lot of people, I get a lot of pastoral care of how do I deal with X, Y, these people over here. Some of us have plenty in the rest of our life, the weight and anxiety, and now it's been heavy on our shoulders this week, the weight and anxiety of just regular life. Why can't we just come into church and be happy and festive? She just played Jingle Bells. Why can't we just play Jingle Bells and do more children's sermons? Why do we have to talk about waiting and sadness and all these things? Well, the easy answers, which means it's incomplete. The easy answer is that generations ago, a whole group of people in the church, they got together and they said, these are Christmas readings and these aren't. They said to the church, because I told you so, this is a Christmas reading. And we say, no one likes because I told you so. Sometimes the Christmas readings get a lot worse than this that we just heard. But they thought it was what? Why did they think it was good for us? Why did they think this story did anything to help us look forward to God showing up in our lives? Well, we're going to start in the beginning, and I'm going to make this hard on Tom. Tom, can you go back to the beginning of the first sentence of the reading that Jolynn did there? I know it's backwards. Yeah, that one right there. In the days of Herod. This is where it starts. Now, does that feel festive and joyful to you? No. What do we? If you had any words in your life about who Herod was, what words come to mind? Bad? Nasty? Taxes? Yeah, he's not a hero here. He's kind of a threat. So right off the bat, this is dangerous. This is scary. That's the first sentence of this story. But then it keeps going. In the days of Herod. Who is he? He's the king of Judea. And if you grew up Jewish, it was called Judah. And then once the Romans came in there, they changed the name to Judea. So there's a little hint in here. It's not just Herod that's bad, but we are stuck under the thumb of Rome, an oppressive power. And again, Rome has taken over Israel. It's not a positive story. This is, again, another haunting. If this was a musical, we would hear dun dun da with all those kind of things. This is bad stuff here. So these people are, if you're Jewish and you're reading this story, the very first line is about you. Oh, I feel abandoned. I feel disillusioned. I feel disempowered. I feel like things can happen to me that I don't have control over. I feel in chaos. That's not a good thing. That's bad news. So in the midst of that, just go ahead and keep that up there, Tom. In the midst of that, we get our two main characters. And if you relate to these folks, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. There's parts of it that are just so real you have to relate. But Zechariah, he's an older guy. He comes from stability. He's a temple middle manager. He has worked his way up from the ground floor up to middle management, which is everyone's great dream when you're in high school. I want to be a middle manager and be told what to do. Okay? Yeah, that's how I felt. Well, same thing. He works hard at following the rules, and he gets some credit for that. He's built a good life with his wife. He's worked hard for his wife. And Elizabeth, who's she? Well, she's a good catch. She's a good catch. What we know about her, she comes from a great family too. This must have been a great wedding. They got a lot of presents because these are two strong families coming together. She cares about how she interacts with the world. She's a good person. These are good people. But the text says they have no children. Because ancient texts don't have the same imagination or scientific worldview that we do, they just throw her under the bus. They said Elizabeth could not, but it's not her fault. We don't know whose fault it is. If it's Zechariah's fault, it's well, that's kind of emasculating. If it's her fault, then that's kind of devastating. If it's nobody's fault, and they've just had a miscarriage or two. That's just painful. Just a little hint at the bottom of this first paragraph that they've been through some stuff. He's old, she's getting on in age, they've had a lot of weight in their life, and they've probably come through it well. They've probably had some connection through that. But whether they've resigned themselves to saying, we have a full life here with our neighbors, with our friends, with our family, it's full, this is great. Or whether they still feel some sharp wounds for missing out on some certain dreams, we don't know. Whether they saw their lives as complete or not, the author chose to put this little nugget in here. Luke wants us to hear that in the midst of, one, a broken world, there are Herods in the world, there are Romes in the world, it is a chaotic world. We don't have control over the big things. And two, their life, their personal life, in their walls, in their kitchen, the tears at their kitchen table, they've flowed. They've had to rely on each other. And you may feel these things differently, less threatening, more threatening, but for Zechariah and Elizabeth, whether it's kids or not, whether it's the relationship with your kids, whether it's a fulfilling job or you feel stuck in middle management, whether it's good health or not, whatever you face in your own private battles, you hear from this story, the entrance of Christmas is, you're not alone. The beginning of this story is, these folks have stuff like you. You're in the same boat. We all deal with things that are hard. And it might not hurt every day, but the picture we're supposed to get here, this is a middle-aged couple just holding it together with layer after layer after layer of fear and disappointment. And their best response is they just keep going. They rely on each other. They hope from God. They keep on moving. Now, the next part of the story. Tom, throw me another paragraph up here. So Zechariah he's in the temple doing his job. Everybody else is outside praying. It seems like the Bible is full of these benign, religious, boring little statements about, especially when the Old Testament, you just read through that and it just seems like you're just reading through gobbledygook. And this can easily seem just so, what's going on here? But does it feel lonely if he's by himself? I have never in my life led a worship service where I'm the one person standing here and everyone else is out there mingling and praying and singing and laughing and holding babies in the choir and laughing on birthdays and just is he lonely? Is he really part of the congregation that he's trying to serve? What if he's questioning in these moments, does it matter what I do? This incense that I'm sprinkling, does it matter? Caring for these people? Do I make any real difference? And I can't prove that that's what's in his head, but with that first paragraph and all that buildup, doesn't that sound like the kind of chaos that Luke would be presenting more? First it's the world, then it's his family, and then it's his own mind. Do I have meaning in this world? Does my life have purpose? Does this whole church thing have any intention? And into that, let's see another paragraph up here. And into that, the angel shows up. Angels are terrifying. Every angel that shows up in the Bible, the first words out of their mouth is, and why would that be? Because we're always afraid. Some of us are afraid of danger. Others of us are afraid of truth. Sometimes, I don't know how the quote goes exactly, but some of us are scared that we might actually matter and we might actually succeed. That's terrifying to think that I actually would reach my dreams and goals and then be responsible for holding on to those. So seeing an angel of truth might be terrifying in that way. But maybe it's just fear because it's something different. But the angel tells Zechariah, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of any of your chaos. Don't be afraid of me, of your fears, of your life with your wife. Don't be afraid of the whole world right now because God responds to chaos. And this is the response that's going to change the world and change their lives. The angel says, baby John is going to do things to redeem really all those layers. Not going to fix everything, but this response addresses all those layers of pain. So of course John doesn't believe it. It's too good to be true. I don't want to throw John under the bus here. This seems improbable. I don't know if he doesn't believe that they're going to get pregnant because they're getting on in years. I don't know if he doesn't believe that his child will be so important because, children are wonderful when they're babies, but then they grow up and they're adults. And adults, we're we have issues. Or maybe he doesn't believe that the world can get better because he's grown his whole life under Roman oppression. He's so worn down by so many things. It just seems incredible. There's no room for good news in his worldview. Now, some of us get so overwhelmed by bad news. Zechariah, he gets muted. Some of our response in the last months, years, we mute our television. I mean, how many of you have told me, I just can't even watch the news anymore? How many of you're so sick of your Facebook feed? At some point, you just got rid of that thing. You muted it because it was too painful. He gets muted because the world's too overwhelming. And he's so used to this bad news, whether the world, whether it's wife, the Romans are taking over. He must have had this conversation over his life. How do we fight back? How do we maintain the life that we believe in? How do we resist our neighbor? How can our neighbors be, rooting for Herod in any of this, or even just accepting it? Do you think he thought about jumping on a camel and moving somewhere? I know a lot of people do. But maybe he thought, no, don't worry, Elizabeth. It's not going to be as bad as it seems. It'll be fine. We have plenty of checks and balances in Israel these days. It'll be fine. In the midst of this, why do we have to suffer more just in our regular life, in our regular kitchen? He must have thought, is there anything I can do? Is there anything we can do? Just a little thing, just a little thing in life that gains any control so that we feel like we still matter and we still just have relevance in this world. How can I just make my wife feel better? How can I just make my husband feel better? Is there anything we can do in these walls to feel safe? Is there anything we can do to make our neighbors safe? Hope is a hard word for people like Zechariah and Elizabeth. And these angels, this is God's response. This is hope. Hope is angelic. Angels are hope. If you ever have a glimmer of hope in your life, you've seen an angel. And that's what this story is about. This is what Gabriel, we learn the name is Gabriel later. This is what Gabriel says and does. Do not fear. And the angel knows better than you do that you fear and why you fear. The angel knows better than you do that there are more fearful things in the world than even you count. But hope is about a different posture facing fear. It's not necessarily calling you to ultimate courage. Hope is not about, I can overcome all these things. Hope is, how do I put down the fear long enough, even for a moment, to see the beauty in the world? Second thing that the angel tells Zechariah is take a break. Be silent. It seems like a punishment in this case, but sometimes a punishment is a great advantage. Just be silent. For us, if it means paying less attention to the pain of the world, great. If it means paying closer attention so you can serve stronger, great. But take a break from getting stuck in that spin cycle of hopelessness and despair. What the angel calls him to is go connect with the people that you love. Go see Elizabeth. Go be hopeful with her. Don't just feel hope. Go be hopeful in the world, and you will be surprised at how hope shines back upon you. Fourth thing he says, really, it's embedded, I guess. Let's see the next paragraph here. The next paragraph assumes he doesn't hurry. He doesn't see the angel and then just rush outside and tell everyone what his news. No, he waits. The people are waiting for Zechariah. He takes his time. I don't think anything important ever happens overnight. So it's holy to take our time in building these foundations of hope. And finally, nothing happens without the Spirit. Gabriel says, I stand in the presence of God. And Zechariah is invited to find those places where the sacred is most present. For some of us, that's here, in places like this, surrounded by other hopeful people. I promise you, there is nowhere in your life that you will be surrounded by as many hopeful people as on Sunday mornings right here. You might be surrounded by more festive people singing jingle bells, but they carry a lot of weight too. So you're in here. It might be, instead of this, for some of you, your hopeful place, not even the hopeful place, just the place where you feel God's presence. I can't wait to get on a ski lift. It's so time to just jump on a ski lift and be up there. Many of us, that's why we're here. That's why we live in this place. These mountains are beautiful. Actually, I can wait for the ski lift. I can't wait to put on my skins and hike up the darn mountain and then ski down and be exhausted. I can't wait to be in these places where I can just be curled up reading in a chair when like Christmas is over and all this stress is finally down. Whew, that's a good time. Some of you can do that during Christmas. It's just stop and be filled with the sacred, with just a nice cup of tea. And you're invited to find those places. What they do is they build your capacity to take on hope. Hope is a muscle. And all these things we do, it works that out. Being around other people is like being on a team to work that out. And I'm sure all of you have your own hints for what it is that builds that muscle. You have your own experiences for what has carried you through, the people that carry you through, and maybe the people that you need to stay away from and build up your own heart. You have your own hints about rituals and practices and cool apps that can help you through the season and teach you value. You know the songs that matter to you and that give you memories. You know the people that encourage you with joy. You know I'll bet Kathy, if you don't know a good movie, like a really bad movie that's good, Kathy will tell you a holiday movie. Because last year we set out a whole bunch of terrible holiday movies. She'd seen them all. So like... There's so many ways to just work. None of them are solutions. None of them are as strong as Herod. None of them are as strong as the pain that those two have gone through. But all of them build the strength to carry more hope. So as we prepare ourselves for the fullness of God to arrive, and in a church we talk about that as the birth of Jesus, but as we prepare for the fullness of God to arrive in your heart, in your life, these are some of the stories that guide us. These are the prescriptions for trying times, for difficult lives. And may they be for you a balm. Amen.
In singing When God Was a Child.